Yo, welcome to another episode of Unsportsmanlike Conduct. It's me and Ben again this week. How you doing, Ben?
Doing good, Mitch. What about you?
Well, I think you're doing better than me. The only thing I have going for me over this past week was the fact that Cowboys lost. And in the fashion they did, I mean, don't get me wrong, Eagles fans, we're not having a great time. But
But you got to
Cowboys
feel,
Cowboys are doing much worse. I think
yeah.
there's more questions going on with Cowboys. But anyhow, outside of that, I'm doing pretty good. So, so this week, first to preface for this episode, um, my youngest is sick, so there is a possibility this episode will get cut short, and there'll be like a 5 second warning. I'm not gonna mess with editing videos together or whatnot, so this episode gets cut short. Don't worry, we'll record the rest of it probably tomorrow. It might be just me. I might bring on a guest to finish it with me. It might be me and Ben. I don't know. So just preface. Hopefully we could get through this whole thing and call it good. But just so you guys know. Um, but anyways, we're gonna break down week two matchups. Quite the interesting week. Lots of injuries we got to talk about. We're gonna updated power rankings. Clark and I mean, we were right up there 1 and 2. We're both not up there at 1 and 2 anymore. Um, gonna do the waiver wire Wednesday. Break that down. Week three matchups. We're gonna fit and then wrap up with some NFL injuries, and then we're gonna talk about Tua a little bit if he should retire or should come back. Maybe they should go get Tom Brady. I don't know. But anywho, before we get into the week two matchup, Ben, you got to win.
Yep, got that win, baby. My team's finally batting 500. So coming off that really close loss to AJ the week before, uh, feeling pretty good after the week two matchup. Um, kind of came out strong and outscored everyone this week. So felt really good about that. But I'm not gonna lie, nothing feels sweeter than just really sticking it to Andrew. It always feels good, baby. Always feels good.
Andrew's sitting down there at 0-2 now. So Ben,
Mm.
you actually have the second most points in the league now after 2 weeks. So you had
Yep,
quite the week. Clark, big matchup. He won. He's sitting up at top 2-0 with the most points in the league.
yep,
Congrats, Clark. You beat me. I beat Rob and I. Yeah, it was kind of interesting there on that Monday Night Football game. Um, yeah, I didn't play Bowers. I thought likely was the better choice to play. I had opportunity for more points. If I would have played Bowers, I would have won. But that's the nature of it.
yep. That's how it goes.
So stuff like that, injuries. That's just yeah. That's what makes it fun and interesting. But
Yep.
um, but no. After 2 weeks, just three teams undefeated. Steve is up there. I
Yep.
don't think he knows what to do right now. He's getting tallies in that loser column. That that loss. Uh, we're gonna get in
Yeah.
that matchup later, but and we've already started the trash talking. I love every bit of it. I'm gonna put a loss on that this week, and then you got AJ. That AJ.
Yep.
But looking right now,
Hey,
not that it
AJ,
matters.
AJ, and Tommy.
AJ and Tommy. Man, I'm gonna have to get used to that. I sometimes do bad not mentioning Rob. Um, so,
Who's Rob?
but no, right now, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in the top six have not won. Let's keep
Yep.
that trend. Let's keep that trend. So,
As of now, it's looking like that reset. Maybe it's not something that we're going to be talking about at the end of the year. We'll see how that plays out. But there's a lot of games left to be played.
Yeah.
A lot.
So, Ben, after 2 weeks, what would you say is your biggest surprise?
Um, I mean, honestly, I'm gonna say it's probably Steve's team. Steve. We watched Steve go so long without even drafting a quarterback, and I got to give him props. He's pulled into second. He's made some moves that have really played out for him. So, I got to say, draft wise, it looks like Steve has actually done some pretty solid stuff that's kind of helped him out here. So, that might be my biggest surprise. Um, other than actually looking at the NFL, which again, we'll get to that later, but the number of injuries that have already occurred. It always worries me when we're talking about injuries this early in the season. So,
It's crazy. So many top tier players,
yep,
either out for a while or just out for a few weeks, or it's just kind of like, are they going to play? Um, who did I just see today that is, CD Lamb
yep.
is also having issues. So it's crazy, man. Um,
I got to wonder whether maybe people are just being a lot more cautious now.
it could be.
I think that might be playing into it something, but we'll see. Um, you got to think that CD is going to be so. I don't expect anything different there, but there's a lot of guys out, and there's significant, players, pieces to their team. So
Hmm.
things that could really change what the season looks like, but even in our world, could really change what our seasons look like too. So we'll just have to wait and see.
So, all right. Before we get into, actually, no, I want to get into the power rankings, and then we're going to get into the waiver wire. Man, looking at some of these waiver budgets that are left, we had a spicy hit this week. We'll just say that. Um,
Yeah.
but no, power rankings. I know last week I had myself and Clark at the top. I mean, we were 1 and 2, both had a win, both had the most points. I'm taking myself out of that. I lost. My team did take some hits, some injuries. It's still in the fight without a doubt, but there are some question marks. I'm not as certain about my team anymore. Um, I need to win games like Steve does.
Yep.
Um, that being said, I'm not trying to discredit Steve's team. He's averaging 110 a week.
Yep.
Um, so, but no, I knock myself out. I keep Clark there, and honestly, I'm putting you in there. I know you're 1 and 1. AJ is ahead of you in the rankings, but you're scoring. You have the second most points in the league right now. And I'm
Yeah.
going to do my best to make sure that that's not my trend. I'm not just going to pick the two teams with the most points every given week. There'll probably be some similarities with that, but right now it's going to be Clark. Even though that was a low scoring game this past week with me and him, but it's going to be Clark and you, Ben.
Yeah. I agree on Clark. I think that his team is really just coming up where it needs to. Not not a huge scoring game for either of you, but squeaking out the win like that. We had a lot of when you look at the matchups this week, it was basically 50-50. Either you were winning by just massive amount or you're winning by like less than 8 points.
Hmm.
Those are the only options for the two types of games because we had either really close or just really far apart. There's not really a middle ground in there, I thought. So I feel like Clark is still a very clear number one right now. I'm not ready to throw my team up there as one of the top teams because, again, I'm a little beaten by the injury bug right now.
Yeah.
So I think I still give it to AJ. You're looking at the players. I don't really feel like there's too much to worry about with his players in terms of the injuries yet. So I think that he's going to continue putting up consistent numbers. But I will say there's an honorable mention for Steve right now. It's you got to look at Steve's team right now, and there's still question marks, but I still feel like it's enough to where you got to think there's a little danger there when you're
Yeah,
playing him, right?
yeah. Who you got down at the bottom?
You want bottom two or bottom one?
It's bottom one.
Oh boy. Well, right now Ryan and Mark are dead last on the list, but I'm gonna keep saying what I've been saying all along. When we did this draft, everyone kept telling me that Taylor's team looked really good. And that day I told you guys, no, I don't buy it. And here we are. Taylor's team is 0-2, and I'm still not buying it. So I think while he may be 10th right now, I look at that lineup, I think you're 12th.
There's only 4 teams that have more points than him right now. I know his record is 0-2. Um, and he has a team I still don't really want to play it because I think it could pop off. The players are there. Jets played a little bit better this week. Like he's living and dying with Jets. Um, with me, I mean, I've been saying Cameron. I've been saying it's gonna be middle of the season before that team starts to click. You just don't want to win too late. He snuck one out this week. I was keeping an eye on that score. Just Marvin Harrison, just those quick connections, just blew up. I think at one point in time, Cameron was projected like 140, and it's like my goodness, he still didn't wind up with a whole lot of points. Enough to beat Mike. Like he still got over 100. Um, it's just with his team, it's going to be the consistency thing. That being said, we saw a glimpse of what could happen any given week. I'm going to give it to George Kittle. Um, effect. I think 1 out of every 3 or every 4 games you're going to see something like that, and then you just got to hope the rest of your team does their job, and then you'll win. So I'm not going to put Cameron at the bottom. We got to see a glimpse. I am going to give it to Ryan and Mark. I mean, their team is the worst right now, and it's bad. I mean, you're not even averaging 80 points a week. So I think it's Ryan and Mark. Uh, Simple as that.
Yeah. Uh, Clearly, there's some things that need to happen for Ryan and Mark to really turn it on.
Hmm.
Uh, they're not getting production out of some people they really should. And being a Chiefs fan, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Travis Kelsey is massively letting you guys down. Massively. I think that we were 2 weeks in, and I think he's got what, 3 catches, 4 catches. So I think if I remember it, I didn't get to read the article, but uh, I think that there is something in the headlines today that Travis Kelsey actually ended a record because he's had such bad games for the past 2 games. So
Mm,
it basically put an end to a streak that he was on. So I think even Travis Kelsey knows that, oh boy, I need to turn it up and I need to start producing.
yeah.
So so if that happens, then Ryan and Mark, I think you guys will be looking a little bit better. But um, you've had too many of your higher tier players kind of dropping some goose eggs. So I believe that's going to change again based on injuries. So I think that you guys may see some changes that will be pretty good there. But uh, we'll see. That's that again, nature of the beast, right?
Yep. Yep. All right. Let's go ahead and transition over to the waiver wire. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Pull this up. So, and I mean, we're going to start with the first one that was off the board. Um, Clark won it. Guy that's leading the league right now and first. But man, oh man, he spent basically half his budget
Oh,
on
he
one
went.
player. $47. Now, Ben, I see you bid 25.
Uh huh.
Now, before we talk about Clark's 47 bid, I want you to explain why you thought 25 was the right amount.
We've talked before that if you really want somebody, you kind of have to go get them.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, I'm gonna be really honest. I placed that bid uh, as soon as I saw the news regarding this player. And if I had remembered what I bid, I probably would have gone and lowered it the other day, to be honest. Um, but there's a chance. Like again, I am the guy who has Isaiah Pacheco on my roster.
Yep.
He's going to be at least 6 to 8 weeks, is what they're saying now.
Mm-hmm.
Reed even made the comment that he'll be here next season. So we don't know what that means. We know Pacheco had surgery today, so uh, you know we'll be all anxiously watching how that goes. But um, as a Chiefs fan, yeah, I kind of thought like, okay, maybe this is the reunion tour, if you will, and bringing back Kareem Hunt. He's 29 now versus when he left the Chiefs, I think he was 23.
Mm-hmm.
So, he had some good years in Cleveland, but clearly they didn't feel good enough about him to keep him. So I think there's some question marks on that.
Oh, wasn't that
But
really more off the field issues that kind of like,
yeah,
that's enough? Like, yeah, we're just not going to deal with it.
yeah, usually it's some of that stuff. And like, you know, I gotta assume knowing Andy Reid, he's already had that conversation. Like, look, you need to keep your nose clean,
Mm-hmm.
head to the do the work. Um, so I get the move because there's not a clear backup to Isaiah Pacheco. Like we really were banking on Pacheco as our bell cow in Kansas City. The number two right now is a rookie, undrafted free agent, Carson Steele. Looked really fun in the preseason. So I get the move. I have Carson Steele. I'm going to be playing him this weekend. Um, we'll see what he does. But I think right now, realistically, we're going to be seeing a committee of Carson Steele and Samaje Perine. So we'll kind of see what happens there. But I think it's worth noting that Kareem Hunt is on the roster. He did sign with the Chiefs, but it's the practice squad. So we don't know that he'll suit up on Sunday or not. We probably won't till that day.
Yeah.
And, um, I think that the stuff we've been hearing out of Kansas City is that they really wanted him to do some more conditioning before they actually field him. And remember, too, if he's just getting on the field on a Wednesday, that gives him two, maybe three practices before the game. That's not a lot of time to learn playbook. That's not a lot of time to practice those plays. So,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're put in, you may only be there for certain plays. So, going forward, yeah, who knows? I made similar moves in other leagues to try and get Kareem Hunt, but not $47. I will tell Clark that in another league I got him for 5. So we'll see.
So I know whenever I saw this, like uh the $4 bid, the $7 bid, I'm like, I get those. The $25 bid, I understand that. I don't like it, but I get why you did it because I mean you had Pacheco. In my mind, I was like, 8, 10, $12 maybe, but I also have the formula like if you really want him, just throw 10 more dollars on top of what you think he's worth.
Yep.
And if you get him, it's okay. If you don't, then dang, somebody else really, really wanted him. Um, so 25 in my mind was a little bit more than what I would have done if I was in your situation, but it doesn't matter because Clark came in at 47. My biggest issue is, and you mentioned it. I even if he like, is it going to turn into be by committee? Are we going to get Edwards Hilaire back? I mean, like who's it gonna be? $47 for a roll of the dice is I couldn't do it. I mean, I bid a lot on likely last week, but I felt more confident in that. I'm still gonna play likely, um, but yeah, man, 47. This might be this is right up there with AJ's pick last week for Madison.
Yep.
Um, so Clark, I hope it works out for you, but I wouldn't hold my breath. So,
Clark, I
um, all right, and then we're going to move on to the next one. Quentin Johnston,
that,
$15. Won it from AJ. Next closest was you. I had zero. I know I considered throwing down a bid on this, but I already have the other wide receiver, and if the average passing game is going to be 150 yards, I don't know if I really want a wide receiver on that team. Um,
I am going to point out really quick. I think you missed one. Um, Drew did go put in $22 for Braylon Allen with the Jets.
why don't I see that?
I don't know, but that was one that was processed. So, uh,
Oh, there.
again,
That's because you're right. We're gonna come back to that one here in just a second. So I was only on my screen. It was only showing the ones that had like other people also bid. But you're right. We'll come back to that in a second. Man, that's even. Oh boy.
no, I get the Quentin Johnson one. Like I said, I didn't throw money down on it. I was just curious to see if I could snag him. I don't know what to make out of the Chargers just yet. Honestly, if your name isn't J.K. Dobbins, I'm not entirely sure that I need you on my roster. That being said, J.K. Dobbins would look really good on my roster. So, um, yeah, Quentin Johnston, there's been questions before because, they drafted him with the intent of being a number one
Oh
receiver,
yeah.
but it just wasn't panning out that way last year. So maybe this is the moment. Maybe this is what he needed.
So it
So
could
we'll
be
see.
that he's the big time receiver, but then their rookie this year, he's the one that's getting all the uh, kind of like the Puka,
Yep.
the stab plays.
Yep.
So
So
and then man, yeah, I'm glad you pointed this out. This Braylon Allen. I mean, if Brees Hall gets hurt, good for you. Um,
well,
that's
I do get it because he did have a very, excuse me, very good game this past week.
what
Like
we did.
they went and played Tennessee. He had two touchdowns in that game on very limited action.
Hmm.
So he's making the case that, hey, I can turn up some big stuff. It's just how much can you rely on that? Like he's not always going to get a touchdown on 5 carries.
Hmm.
I mean, the guys had a total of uh, let's see, 8 rushing attempts over 2 weeks. So yeah, I don't know. Anything happens to Brees Hall, it looks like a great move.
Yep.
Uh, for now, I don't know. I'd like to see some more first.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Next one we have Steve getting Derek Carr for 14. I love this for Steve, even though I'm playing him this week. I think the most explosive offense in the league right now,
Yep.
whether it's on the ground running, Derek Carr still shows that he has it. He's been putting up good points. I think this is a very practical one. I'm surprised nobody else bid on him. But I'd like this for Steve's team. He needs a QB still. With Stafford, all the issues going on with the Rams right now, don't blame me one bit. So uh, I like this bid, especially for Steve. This
I,
is a play now type kind of pickup.
I think it's a good move for Steve. I will again tell you that I've always hated Derek Carr. I mean, somebody who played for the Raiders that long. I never liked this guy ever, but he's with the Saints now, and 2 weeks in, and he's 21 points the first week, 22 the second.
Hmm.
You look at that schedule, that's a pretty favorable schedule. Like
Yeah.
he's got Philly this week, then afterwards Atlanta, their sixth ranked defense for like easiest.
Hmm.
Kansas defense not really popping like last year. Tampa Bay, still some weakness. Denver, pretty atrocious all across the board. So there's I think Steve can squeak some stuff out of this if they continue playing like they are.
Yep.
Yeah, I got to give you props, Steve. You managed to go find something, and it looks like you have a potentially good quarterback here to carry your team, who is making the case that yeah, they probably should be in the top tier of our league.
Next we
I,
got. Oh, go ahead.
I said I still hate Derek Carr though.
Next we have Clark. Another bid that he won $8 for Jordan Whittington from the Rams. I don't hate this. I mean, there's a lot of question marks. He's going to be number one right now. You got
Yeah,
Puka out for at least 3 more weeks, possibly longer. Cup, he's now officially on IR, right? Uh, I don't know who they're going to throw to. Um, so I get this. This is one that if you just need to put in a flyer, this might hit good. So way better than your other waiver pickup.
yeah, this could play out. We just don't really know who they're going to be throwing to.
Hmm.
You got to think maybe Tutu Atwell is going to be somebody that's getting some significant snaps there. Demarcus Robinson, we'll see.
Yeah.
But I guess you're playing for the high upside ceiling is what you're looking at.
And then next, AJ picking up Jalen Naylor.
Yep. I will admit that I kind of wanted this one. Um, he's been looking pretty good playing in Minnesota, filling in while Addison's not there. He got was it? I think he had one catch for a touchdown in week one, but he had 4 targets, 3 catches this past week. Again, big catch for a touchdown. So it's still kind of touchdown dependent, but you know, Minnesota's not as bad as people are projecting. Sam Darnold's looking pretty good up there right now.
Dude, he showed up.
Yeah. So I think whoever's going to be in that lineup as the 1 and 2 receivers, it makes sense to kind of keep these guys on your radar.
Hmm.
So, and Naylor, he's very young. I can't wait to see what happens with him. I think he's going to develop into something, a good number 2
Yeah.
is what I think he's headed for, unless the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah. And then we got Andrew picking up Green Bay's defense for $2. Playing Tennessee this week. Very valuable pickup right there.
Yep.
Um, and then wrapping up, we have Ryan and Mark getting on the board, getting Buffalo, and they're playing Jacksonville this week. That's also a fairly good pickup. So,
Pretty
uh,
decent moves there.
yep, and that is it for waiver wire. There's some other free agent pickups, but I'm not as worried about going through those.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna get into the matchups. So we'll start at the top. Ben, we're gonna go ahead and just start with my matchup for Steve.
All right. All right. So you and Steve, again, it's two of the teams that we've been talking about as potentially top tier. Um, I love how close Yahoo is projecting this because I do actually feel like that's a pretty fair breakdown. Um, look, again, quarterback wise, yeah, I think Jalen Hurts is clearly better than Derek Carr, but if Derek Carr is going to continue playing monster games. And I'll be honest, if the Philly defense is going to play like they did last week, then Derek Carr looks like he may be a pretty decent play. You both have Miami's receivers, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Who knows what to expect there? Because I guess Skylar Thompson's throwing the ball to them. I
Yeah.
don't know. Um, you look again. The injury bug is having some pretty serious effects. You're putting Demarcus Robinson in your lineup. Um, Steve's got Chris Olave in there, but I will go ahead and say that Olave has not been like the focal point for New Orleans. Shaheed has been actually more effective as a receiver, but really, unless your name is Alvin Kamara, I don't really know that you truly matter in terms of New Orleans offense right now. But I think what's going to be the deciding factors here is really the running backs. So um, I'm not crazy about Josh Jacobs. David Montgomery, if he has that solid role again where he just keeps playing that really strong number two, the guy's been what, averaging 15 right now? So
Um.
I think it's that.
Yeah. He's literally 15.8 and 15.
See, so pretty consistent there. We kind of have a rough idea of what might happen there. Um, you got Joe Mixon in there. I'm not entirely sure about the injury situation there. I think he wasn't at practice today.
He
So,
wasn't really doing much. Like I give it 50-50.
yeah. So I think right there, if Mixon isn't playing, that's I think that's going to really hurt you. I like James Conner. I like James Cook. Um, it's tough. It really is tough. So uh, I'm gonna say Mitch and Rob by one. It, and I think what I'm really just basing that on is I still feel like at the end of the day, Jalen Hurts is probably going to put up more than Derek Carr. Uh, I just I don't know what else to expect with this. There's a lot of question marks, and I'm gonna be saying that a lot tonight. So very close game, but I think Mitch and Rob are going to pull this one out, and Steve gets to join the rest of us without undefeated seasons. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
My unbiased opinion is Mean Rob.
What about your highest opinion?
My biased opinion, man. So I'm if these lineups stay true right now, I'm gonna give it to Rob and I, not by much. I think Arizona going against Detroit, who Detroit's coming off of a loss, they're gonna show up this week.
Detroit's
Um,
nasty too.
so and playing, I mean, I get the tight end. The tight end and running back's not as bad as a running back and wide receiver. Uh, Arizona, we still don't know really how that team's going to be this year.
Yep,
Uh, I will say I think Olave's due for a game, and Steve has that lovely wombo combo now.
yep,
Um, so I'm looking at this. I mean, if I get Jacobs, I get Montgomery, and I get Mixon this week, then I give the edge uh, to Rob and I.
yep.
If I don't have either Jacobs or I don't have Mixon or if I don't have both of them, I give the edge to Steve. It's very possible Rob and I were going to play two tight ends this week.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm not ready to give up on Likely. I think going to Dallas, a defense that just gave up a lot of points. I mean, those are two teams. They're desperate for a win. Dallas
Yep.
doesn't want to go down to 1-2, and Baltimore definitely doesn't want to go 0-3. So,
But
huh?
but I want them to.
Oh, I know you do.
I want to see Baltimore 0-3 this year. It'd make me very happy.
I think this is going to be a close game. Um, it's yeah, it'll be a close game.
Yep.
Honestly, Hill, Waddle, that's a wash. I have no idea what to expect in Miami. That has to be probably one of the bigger hits to my team. I mean, losing Puka hurt. Losing a potential home run hitter in Hollywood Brown hurt. And
Yep.
then, well, Tua's hurt. We don't know how that's going to play. If Tua's out, like if he's just done, that's not good. I mean, my wide receiver just went from the second best in the league to you don't got much. So
Yep.
so there might be some trades coming on. I'm not ready to give up on this yet, uh, but we'll see. Injuries are part of it, but small edge
Yep.
to me and Rob.
I think that's fair.
All right,
Who's up?
battle of the losers. Andrew against Ryan and Mark.
Uh I'm just gonna say it. I don't think Ryan and Mark are gonna go 0-3. I I think Andrew's the one who's getting the L this weekend. Um, I've been kind of saying similar things about Andrew's team. I Devontae is a great receiver. I just think it's a bad situation in Vegas. Nico Collins, a little bit of injury bug risk there right now.
Yep.
Jonathan Taylor, he's still playing well. I think Indy clearly has some stuff to figure out though. They're not looking great. Ramondre Stevenson has been a pretty nice little bright spot for Andrew right now. I've always kind of liked Ramondre, so I like seeing that, but uh, I don't know what to expect there with the Jets defense. So I'm going to harp on you again, Andrew. I still see Zamir White in that lineup. I still don't like it. I'm going to say it again. Quit being an idiot. Play Xavier Worthy. This shouldn't be that complicated. Um, Even though he didn't have that much action this past week, I still feel like there's more chance of that having upside than Zamir White because it looked to me like Madison seems to be getting more action. And, you know, I'll just say it. I would play Worthy over Zamir. I would play Ezekiel Elliott over Zamir. I would play Romeo Dobbs over Zamir. You know what? You could probably even convince me into playing McLaughlin over Zamir right now. I just don't see it. So that being said, Ryan and Mark, I'm thinking that you guys are going to get your Kelsey clutch moments this week. I think that they're going to have to get him involved, especially with Pacheco out. You're going to have to take some pressure off a young running back, and Mahomes is going to have to step up because he threw two interceptions that were not good, like very un-Mahomes like. So I think that the Mahomes and Kelsey combo has probably been hearing it this week. So I think there's going to be a pretty strong game planning for that because those two are very competitive and they're not going to want to let people chip away at them the way they have because just not great play by either of them last week. Really not great play. So Ryan and Mark, I think you guys pull out your win. I think Andrew is well, let's put it like this. Andrew's gonna be torturing Josie with his whining this weekend. Don't look so deep in thought, Mitch.
Um. Well, looking at this, the I hate the Drake London and Bijan Robinson, but on the other side, Andrew has Kirk Cousins. So if they do have good games, well, it's I don't think that'll bode well for you, Andrew. I'm gonna give the edge to Ryan and Mark here. Um, Andrew, am, I get maybe playing White one more time, especially against a team like Carolina. Uh, the most that you're going to get out of him is probably like 10 points. I think you have potential home run with Worthy, um, possibly even Dobbs, maybe. There's a small chance Love is going to play this week, which is
Yep.
ridiculous. I think they should rest him still, and that's probably what they'll do. But yeah, man, it's your running backs are solid. I'd be content with your running backs. White, I mean, if it's another less than 5 points, you need to let that one go or put him on the bench for a while. Um, it's just he's not going to just blow up. We're not going to see that. Not a fan of Cousins, not yet. I think he's getting there. I do know that the matchup is nice against Kansas City. Um, so you might have that, but you're playing Patrick Mahomes in prime time football Sunday night.
Yep.
They are playing in Atlanta though, so going to give Ryan Mark the edge. Won't surprise me if neither team scores 90.
I can see that.
All right, next matchup we got Mickey B and Taylor. So
Uh, you want to go first on this one?
I could go first. I mean, if Dobbins keeps doing what he's doing, man, it's just like with Mike's team right now. If Laporta can get going, jeez. Still not a fan of your wide receivers. Um, Mike might be considering uh, doing some trades. Um, you have the ammo to pull off some stuff. Uh, you even got Rashard White. You're gonna bench White, and on most teams, he's an easy starter any given week.
Yep.
Um, man, Mike, looking at your team, if go trade with little Josh. He's been crying for a running back. But
Yep.
no, I'm gonna give I'm gonna give it to Mike, and I think the key factor is Dobbins. Um, that as long as he continues playing the way that he is and he's healthy, dang, that's steal the draft right there. What Mike just did.
Yep.
Um, so I think Joe Burrow will continue to get better every single week. Just gotta let that one keep cooking.
Yep.
I think it's going to be a close game. Uh, you do have Jets playing Thursday night against New England. Jets are getting there. They looked better, but it's not like Tennessee's a great team. I think New England is a better team than what people give them credit for. They're not a great team, and I argue that they're not even like a really good team. But I think they could hold their own. They're just not an easy win. But I'm going to give the edge to Mike, not by much. Both teams I could easily see score over 100. Um, probably wouldn't play Philly's defense this week.
Yeah.
With that said, Eagles defense did good all up until the last minute and a half of that game.
Yep.
So they need to make some adjustments there.
They just
Uh,
need.
but small edge to Mike. Uh, Detroit needs to get Laporta going. That is your beast on your team, and I guess he's just sitting there cooking. He's not ready yet.
Yeah. I'm looking at it, and I mean, I don't expect Josh Allen to have another bad game. It was a tough matchup when he was playing Miami, but really what ended up happening was Buffalo just ran all over them. They didn't need Josh Allen to be Josh Allen.
Hmm.
They were just off the rock to James Cook. So I just don't see that happening necessarily that way again. So I expect a better game from Josh Allen. Joe Burrow is clearly going to be looking to beat up on Washington after this past week. Like Look, Slim Shady is going to definitely be wanting to throw the ball. Jamar Chase is clearly going to need to be fed after last week. They're just going to come out with a vengeance. So I think that they're just going to absolutely rock Washington's world. I think that's just the way it's going to go. I like the Tank Dell play this week again with Nico Collins kind of having the question mark. That does give a boost to Tank Dell in that system. Um, I think that's going to help. Kyron Williams, decent running back at this point. Who else can the Rams really rely on? Like, so I think that could be a mixed bag. Either they're just going to keep feeding him the rock, which might mean San Francisco just stacks 8 in the box on every play, or maybe they can get something going there. So a little feast or famine option there, I think. Achan, again, he's a home run hitter. So I kind of like that play. Dobbins averaging 130 yards every game. Come on, man. How do you not play that? Granted, the matchups were a little bit more favorable. Pittsburgh's defense is better than anything they've faced. But, I mean, I like the matchups for Mike's team this week.
Yeah.
I do think that it'll be a decent week for the Jets. So Taylor should get some serious points there. I'm just going to harp on the same things I've harped on his team with before. I don't buy Najee Harris. I don't trust it. Looking at this right now, averaging 8 points. So I don't like the play. Mark Andrews has not broken double digits. He
Mm-hmm.
has 6 catches on the season. He's looking like Travis Kelce right now. Both of them really need to step it up. Austin Eckler, probably, yeah, I'd say Austin Eckler in my mind is actually probably a better play than Najee. But even then, still not trusting it.
I
So
mean, both of them have been like just like not quite averaging 10. They're serviceable, but you're not getting home run potential. I know you have Shaheed on the bench
that's what I
who's
was getting
who's
to.
averaging over 16 points a game. So,
Yeah. So Shaheed, again, he's he's putting up numbers. He's getting those touchdowns on these long plays. He's just a huge downfield weapon. He's got the speed to make it happen. And like, look, if Derek Carr can get it to him down the field, he's gonna outrun everyone.
mhm.
Like that's it. So I just don't understand leaving Shaheed on the bench for the likes of Eckler or Najee Harris. Like the rest of it, I think is solid, but I think if Taylor really wants to help himself, he needs to put Shaheed in this lineup. So I'll say that unless he plays Shaheed, Mike wins. I think it's that simple.
All right. Moving on to Drew versus AJ and Tommy.
I think this is going to be another close one, Mitch. I look at the quarterbacks and everyone will tell you right off the bat that Lamar Jackson is better than Dak Prescott, but they're going up against each other. So remember, it's all about their weapons too. And there's some questions with Dallas's offense right now. CeeDee Lamb is a question mark technically. Their tight end is one I think that was also kind of mentioned in that. So you know, that game is probably going to be what actually decides this because look at it. You've got Dak Prescott versus Lamar Jackson. You've got Zay Flowers on Drew's team as the wide receiver, and you've got Jake Ferguson.
Mhm.
You got Tucker as the kicker. Go over here, you got Dak Prescott, you got CeeDee Lamb. So, being really honest, the outcome of that game will probably decide this fantasy matchup. So that being said, I think Baltimore will probably pull that out. So I'm going to give it to Drew, but not by much.
Um, man, this one's tough. Uh, I'm gonna give it to Drew as well. Some of the matchups I like better. I
Yep.
don't. I know Kyle Pitts week one had a decent week. I think that that experiment might be over, and I don't necessarily think it's Pitts' fault. I just think he's not featured the way that they should. Um, I
Well,
don't know,
so
but outside of that, I think this is going to be a close matchup.
I can make the case for playing Pitts here because when you watched Kansas City's game last week against Cincinnati, they made it very clear as to what their game plan was. Their game plan was actually working the tight ends against Kansas City's defense. And that was working for them pretty well. So if big if Kyle Pitts can be used in a similar fashion as to how uh, Cincinnati was using their tight ends, then I think it could be a decent game for Kyle Pitts. But um, I don't know that that's going to be necessarily what happens because again, once you've seen some holes exposed like that on a defense, you know they've spent the entire week kind of thinking about how to shore that up. So we'll see.
So I'm small edge to Drew. This is going to be a close game. Both teams are probably going to score over 100.
Yep.
Um, so I really like Mason against the Rams this week. I think that's going to be a slaughter. San Fran going to bounce back off after that loss. Uh, yeah, and I think Baltimore's going to stomp Dallas.
I hope you're wrong about that, but I've also of a similar opinion. So, ugh.
All right, moving on to Little Josh versus Clark.
Well, Jables, I hate doing this to you, but look, Clark's number one for a reason right now. Um, I mean, let's just go ahead and be honest here, Josh. Your problem is your running backs, and you've not been able to address that yet. Anthony Richardson, yes, has kind of let you down. I have to imagine that they're going to work some of that out because uh, last week against Green Bay, that wasn't pretty. But I do think that Chicago will actually be a good moment for them to try and figure some stuff out. Again, I just don't see the running backs working to your favor. I like what you've got at receiver, Josh. Jamar Chase. I think they're going to continue building him back up to that top tier that he is. Rashi Rice is clearly making his case to be known as Kansas City's number one.
Mm-hmm.
And Malik Neighbors came out pretty dang big. Like they heavily targeted him last week.
18 targets.
Yeah, see, and he turned it on for a touchdown, more than 100 receiving yards. I think it was 10 catches. So like monster game. If they can keep doing that with Neighbors, then he's clearly worth the pick that you used on him. And you know, to that point, Josh, he has DK Metcalf sitting on his bench, potentially injured right now. So, Josh, I just think you need to figure out how to leverage those receivers into some help at running back. I don't know how you do it, but I'm sure you can figure out something. So I like what you have there on receivers, but I think that Clark just has better play. I mean, Mahomes is a quarterback. Devontae Smith with AJ Brown out is a number one. Um, Saquon Barkley, other than dropping that one pass, he's been kind of a home run hitter. Uh, you know, end of the day, I think that, like I said, Clark's team is number one right now for a reason. I think that's going to continue this weekend. Josh, you got lucky and got that win last week. You texted me saying that you just needed a field goal, or I believe you kind of mistexted and said something about rushing yards. And then I responded with, yeah, I definitely think your kicker can get those rushing yards, Josh. So uh, I'll take Clark. I just think, yeah, it's hard to unseat the top.
Yep.
So good luck, Josh. Black magic, do whatever you got to do, but I'm gonna take Clark.
So I'm gonna take Clark too, Josh, until you really get your running back solidified. It's gonna be really tough to pick for you any given week unless you're playing one of the bottom teams in the league. Your wide receivers are showing up more and more. I told you last week you should have played Metcalf over Neighbors, and I was technically right. Metcalf had more points. I hope you missed the playoffs by point 0.2 points. I'm just playing. Um, so no, Ben, I think you said on the dark on the just as accurate as you could. Clark is number one for a reason. His team is more solid all the way around. It's yeah. Um, Josh, you can win because you have potential home run hitters in your wide receivers, but I don't think it's enough to outweigh your big hole at running back. So I
Mitch,
see.
let me put this to you. I think we both agree Josh has great wide receivers, and the one of them that is not performing right now is Jamar Chase. Should Josh be trying to offload Jamar Chase to get a running back?
I think you should consider. I mean, he has that combo I hate. He has a running back and a wide receiver from the same team.
Yep.
Um,
Well, and look at the other guys that he's had. I mean, we all know Metcalf's value. He's the number one in Seattle. He's always solid. Um, like I said, Neighbors, if he's going to keep getting that attention, he's got to be in your lineup.
mm-hmm.
And Rashee Rice clearly is right now one of the constants of the Chiefs' offense. So a slow Jamar Chase, how long are you going to wait for him in that offense to get up to where they need to be?
Yeah.
Will they? I don't know. Something to think about, Josh.
All right. And we're gonna move on to the last matchup here. Ben
Important matchup.
and Cameron. So uh, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll go ahead and break this down. So Cameron did get a win last week. We saw the potential of what his team can do, but he also took a big hit last week, losing Cup. And that was the other thing he was heavily relying on. So his team is it's hurting, it's struggling. I think if Cameron's gonna win, he needs a little bit of that magic again from last week, and you have to have a bad week, Ben. I know Cup is still listed as doubtful on here. Cameron's probably waiting to throw him on IR if I actually look. Yeah, he is. And then I imagine he'll pick somebody up.
Yep.
He doesn't have great depth. Haven't seen too many crazy pickups on the waiver wire yet. He's trying to hit hit a home run on picking up some players right before a game starts, and he hasn't quite hit it yet. So I think matchups all around, I give you the edge at quarterback. I give you the edge at wide receiver. Running back, geez, that's a non-issue. Tight end, I'm gonna say Wash.
Mm.
Um, I mean, he could blow up and he could be the best tight end any given week, but it could also be nothing.
Yep.
Um, I know right now you have Steele as your flex. I don't hate it. I don't know who else you'd put in there though.
Yeah,
I'd say Debo if he was healthy, but he's not.
yeah. I mean, it's
I
clear
doubt he's
play.
playing.
He's. I'm really annoyed with that though. That they have him as just doubtful. It's like, look, he did not practice, and all reports are that he's going to miss weeks. So just mark him as out. Like, we know he's not playing this week. So I just don't know why Yahoo hasn't marked him out.
Well, I think it's pretty sure like they can't do it unless the team officially announces he's out, and I think once a player is designated to be out a given week, they can't rescind that. Like it's like if you designate them out, they are out. Um,
I know. I'm just saying it's yet again what I think is another scenario where Shanahan is just waiting, waiting, waiting. And you already got in trouble for it with the Christian McCaffrey stuff in week one. Maybe stop being so cutesy. Like just a thought.
could be,
So
but
that's why
but
you're
yeah,
right. Carson Steele to me, I think I'd rather take the flyer on that than Christian Kirk because Kirk's just not really done anything yet. It's
it.
just he's got both games. So
I don't think he's the problem either. I think Tre- maybe Trevor
it's
Lawrence isn't what we think he is.
it's Trevor Lawrence.
So
I think it's fairly obvious right now. Uh, I really enjoy listening to the Rich Eisen show, and I love it when they do their. I'm just going to call it hot takes. I can't remember what they actually call it, but it's basically the co-host of the show putting out these extremely crazy things. And his thing for this week was that Trevor Lawrence needs to cut his hair so he can actually play football correctly. And I'm like, we have no proof that that has any effect on it. But you know what? At some point, why not? So, uh, looking at the match, again, I can say I feel a little nervous about Cameron's potential because, like you call it, the Wombo combo that came up pretty big for Cam last week. Um, Jameer Gibbs, in my mind, is always a home run hitter. And if I'm going to play somebody from the Steelers offense that's not a wide receiver, I'm going to play Jalen Warren. So, that being said, I think I can pull this out. I'm really hoping that Godwin can give me yet another big game. I'd love it if Michael Pittman could do anything to break double digits yet this year. I feel good with Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara right now. I went and picked up Mike Gesicki because I thought
mm,
he had pretty solid plays while he is against Kansas City. I think they can keep building on that. But again, I'm just going to sit here and pray that the Chiefs don't really know what they have yet in Carson Steele. Um, I mean, if he turns out to be the next Peyton Hillis, I'll be really happy, but not holding out hope on that. So I think Chiefs are going to have a running back committee. What I'm really banking on there is they get to the red zone on that goal line. I know you put in Carson Steele for the rushing touchdown there.
yeah,
You're not putting in P. Ryan. Like I said, I don't know that Kareem Hunt is ready. And they already activated a running back who was on practice squad up.
yeah.
He's not going to see any real time either. So, uh, honestly, the Chiefs got really kind of cutesy with what they're doing at the goal line anyway. We watched them put in a linebacker at the goal line last week against Cincinnati, and then they threw a touchdown pass to an offensive lineman.
Hmm.
Love those plays where the big man scores. It's one of my favorite things in football. Love it. So if they can figure out how to do that 2 weeks in a row, I will be ecstatic. But hoping Carson Steele is at least good enough to vulture me a touchdown this week. So I will give me an edge, but I think Cameron's going to keep this a little closer than we expect.
All right. Well, that wraps up the week 3 matchups. So with that said, just two more topics, two more things we were going to talk about tonight. Um, just NFL injuries in general. Seems like we've been seeing a lot. At least it's impacting fantasy at a high level. A lot of big name players are being impacted.
Yep.
Um, and it seems more than usual. And I know you and I were talking before we started. You mentioned something that you think players are being more cautious than what they usually are. You think something's triggering that? Do you think that's because it's just the length of the season? It's added by one game.
That's kind of my theory is that I think a lot of these teams are thinking in terms of, you know, the long term. Uh, some of these guys, they're just being careful with it of, okay, they have this little tweak in their leg. We'll just mark them as questionable and kind of take it easy. But I don't know. I almost was wondering because I mentioned the Christian McCaffrey stuff with Shanahan.
Mm-hmm.
I almost wondered if teams were maybe just being a little quicker to go ahead and say, hey, they may be injured just because, like, just like he's questionable, just so you have that lead up and there's not so much questions about it. But uh, I don't know. I think that we're still kind of experiencing this, them getting used to this new kind of schedule and having fewer preseason games and
Mm-hmm.
all stuff. I think it may be something. It could be nothing. I don't know, but
Do you think
uh,
there's any real analytics that these teams look at whenever they're comparing similar injuries in the past, being like, well, these players that decide to sit out 2 weeks to let a hamstring injury kind of heal versus letting them play through it, how did that look down the stretch? Like, I wonder if that kind of data is out there. I'd be curious. I'd want to see it. Um,
I I have to think it is out there because uh, again, we're seeing people marked questionable where maybe it's not the most serious thing, but uh, I mean, I think most teams will tell you that if they are making that the intent of they think they have that playoff, wouldn't you rather have that player healthy at that point and forego them for 2 games right now?
oh yeah,
Like, I just think that some of these teams know that they're going to be there come playoffs.
yeah,
So I push it now
I would agree.
and it may not factor. So kind of what I'm wondering, but at the same time, especially when we're talking about fantasy, there's just seems to be like every single team has at least somebody who is, an important piece of their offense that's injured. Like it just seems like all of them do. I don't think I can actually name a team right now that doesn't have either a quarterback, a wide receiver, or a running back or tight end who has a Q next to their name.
Um, Clark. I mean, he has some players on his bench, but his starting lineup is solid. The only one that would be questionable that should be in a starting lineup would be maybe T. Higgins. Uh, but he's not even a number one receiver. That's another thing that's crazy. He has two number two receivers on his teams. Uh, but to be fair, Devontae Smith was number one this past week. So
Yep. I don't know. It's just it. I feel like we're talking about injuries a little bit more and more with each season. So I I don't know. Maybe the league is really making it clear like you need to be careful with these things and take it easy, do a better job of self-reporting stuff.
yeah.
So that's the case. I would hope so.
So I know whenever fantasy aside, I've always been somebody next man up. Like, yeah, you got to overcome it. I know whenever I heard about AJ Brown, he's having issues. It's like, all right, well, that's kind of came out of nowhere, and then they just immediately ruled him out. I'm like, all right, that's probably fine. and then during the Monday night game, he's ruled out for a few weeks. It's like, all right, this kind of sounds like this really did just kind of come up, and they're being extra cautious. Maybe they think they could win these games without him. Um, I don't know, Eagles. They got a tough lineup coming, but yeah,
Yep.
I've always been next man up. You got to figure it out. That's a 53-man roster, so um,
Yep. It's the importance of having a good bench.
yep. Um, Last thing wanted to talk about um, Tua.
The biggest headline this week.
Man, so when that game was going on, I was sitting right here in this chair playing a game, just somewhat keep an eye on that game. Bills, they were dominating. I mean, Bills were going to win that game regardless. And I looked up right when that play happened, and as soon as he got hit and how he went down, I'm like, oh no. I'm like, it can't. Like, but I mean, do you think he's going to come back and play? Do you think he's done?
I don't think he's done. So he made a statement over the weekend that he's not considering retiring. Um, this is one of those scenarios though where it's a question of is it on the team to protect a player from themselves? So look, I think that even you and I can say that it's hard to keep us out of something when we want to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to tell me that a football player may just hang it up, you know, I mean, let's look at it this way. Into his mind, he still thinks he can play and he wants to play. He wants that contract that he got. He wants to be playing football. And yeah, he's a competitor. Like this guy has worked his life for this. So I just don't see him willingly just saying, no, I need to be done. Um, who I keep thinking of throughout this conversation is Andrew Luck. And, it doesn't escape my mind that, you know, realistically, Andrew Luck should still be in the league right now,
Mm-hmm.
but you look at all that he went through and those injuries that he had, and the guy just took a beating every time he went out there on the field. So I just don't want to see that for another guy, but I just don't know what you can really do about that because again, it's not exactly a similar scenario. Andrew Luck, because Andrew Luck was out there getting beat up because the offensive line just wasn't that good. Tua on these plays, he's stretching out trying to make plays. He's diving when he should be sliding. It's things like that. So in this instance, Tua may actually be the biggest danger to himself. So I think that what is going to happen, what has to happen, is he has to have some serious conversations with his coaching staff. And I know that you look at Mike McDaniel and the way that those two have
Oh
their
yeah.
the relationship between those two. They've had these conversations and talked this out. So I really do believe that he will be back on the field, but maybe he's going to come back and start wearing the padded helmets. Maybe like they tell him, look, if you're going to play for us, you have to wear this. Maybe it's just an added protective measure. I don't know, but I really do feel like it's hard to keep him out. But I just don't know that Miami's going to let him go out there without something in place to make it a little safer for him.
Yeah. So I know. I think he's going to come back and play too. I think the Dolphins putting him on IR to be like, just go take your time. Like this is like you're not going to play for the next 4 weeks. You need to go take your time, do your research, do what you got to do. It's
Yep.
your decision to make. And I do think he's going to come back and play. One, I mean, that's a lot of money too. His work ethic has always been go 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 go. I'm going to play football just to stop all that, leave all that money on the table because he wants to support his family. Um, I would imagine there needs to be a massive discussion with the family, and they got to decide how they want to handle that. Uh, I think for the Dolphins, I don't see a world where they're going to tell him no. Like, we're not going to have you back. I think it's one of those, like, you're an adult. If you've made this decision, here's some things that you're going to follow, and it might be the padded helmet thing. I think if he doesn't play anymore, the NFL themselves are going to be like, we are going to force you to medically retire. And then I think if that's the case, if that happens, he gets his full paycheck. Um, I would have to validate that. I think that was one of the scenarios where if the NFL forces it, he gets a big chunk more or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, man, and it keeps happening on the primetime games too.
Yep.
Uh, but no, and honestly, I think he could still play at a high level. Uh, I think with that team and with that play, what's so crazy, he's been doing so much better. It's in that moment he was desperate to make a play, and instincts kicked in. Outside of
Hmm.
that, he's been doing it right. He's been doing better. I think
Yep.
he even practiced how to slide and whatnot, but he tried making a play. And of all
Yep.
people, it had to be against Damar Hamlin, who really Tua did the bigger hit. So I don't know,
Yeah.
seeing stuff like that. I mean, I root for Tua. Him and his family. They need to figure out what's best for them. Get that's a whole lot of money, and uh, just leaving that out there when it's like I could bring all this for you guys. Um,
I will say that one of the things I heard was the idea of like, look, if Tua does get out of the NFL, then I think the perfect move for him next would be putting him on the Olympic flag football team. Like, just think about it. Why not?
could you imagine if he got a concussion playing flag football?
Oh my god.
I don't
You really get a concussion playing flag football, but
honestly like with the flag football thing. Man, I want to see like Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Tom Brady. I want to see people that retired. I want to see Calvin Johnson.
oh,
Like I think there's just some players where it's like I want you to do this because I'll watch it. Um, I mean that should be an easy win for America. I don't care.
yeah,
It just should be just like basketball. I don't even get why it should be a competition. It shouldn't. It should be a slaughterhouse every year. I'm sorry. It just should be. This should be the same way. I get flag football is a little bit different, but no, you outsmart your opponent. I don't. But I think what they should do. I can't remember if I told you this or somebody else. Uh, every year we have the AFC NFC Championship game. And it's always Peyton against Eli. I think
yep.
they need to put a bet like whoever like wins the next one or next two, that's the coach of the flag football team for the Olympics. And then the Olympics are going on like, yeah, no, they made a bet. The winner of a game that doesn't even matter, full of superstars that play silly, that's who gets to gets to coach and their brothers.
Oh, that would be fun though. Oh,
Could you imagine Jason Kelsey and Travis Kelsey both playing? I mean, I think it'd be fun. But anyways,
I'll pay to watch that.
we got a little derailed there. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think he's done. I think he'll be back. I think depending on what all his doctors say, the NFL might intervene. But I think they're gonna let him make his own decision because he is an adult. And it's like if your
Yep.
doctors are advising you this, they're doing this because they could probably request like, well, what are your doctors saying? Because they need to release you to play.
Yep.
And if they're clearing him, they'll probably be like, you're an adult. You can make your own decision. And it's like you just gotta now start following these guidelines. So,
Yep.
and then if it
All
happens
right.
again, it's like we're gonna intervene. So, but, but yeah, with that, I think that's it. We made it through the episode.
Yep.
I saw a couple alerts
Yep.
come up with Callum in his room, but I think he was just shifting around. So, um, but yeah. So next week, wanted to bring up next week before we go. Next week, no, it's not next week. Sorry. Next week it should be normal time. It's the following week, Wednesday night. So 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be traveling to New York. Actually, I'll probably be in Pennsylvania this time in 2 weeks. So my Uncle Tim's getting married and going to be heading up there. So we might do an episode a day early. It's possible we might not have an episode at all. Maybe it's one that I do a recording session with Rob. So we'll figure it out. So it's very possible I'll bring my laptop and we'll do it anyways. I'll have nothing else to do Wednesday night. Maybe I could actually go to the link. That'd be cool. I don't think I'm going to be that close to Philadelphia though. I'd love to go to the link, but anyways, another
Probably not.
tangent. So, anyways, if you like what you see, as always, like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you all next week. Peace.